Hey everybody, Adamant here. I just wanted to give do a video on creature clumping and how to mitigate its effects in certain situations. I'll try to get to that right away in the beginning so that game masters and seers can use this new tool to mitigate clumping, and then I'll go into a bit of detail later as to why this happens and why it's important. Not so much that the clumping is important, but that the creatures stop moving and will tend to stay clumped up in an area for an extended period of time. Okay, so usually we don't care about clumping because there's usually options for the player to get around it. But in this particular quest here, it's our mushroom quest, the players teleport into this location here, and to get out they have to get up to this teleporter up here. So what happens is players will go out here, they'll start fighting with all these spiders, and some of these spiders, these tan colored ones, are effectively dread spiders. So they're very nasty, they hit hard, they can flame strike you, and so you're out here fighting them and they're all chasing you, and so you get up here to the platform, you get on the platform, and now they're all up here with you. And let's say you get out to the teleporter, and you're safe, or maybe they killed you and you got to go get resurrected and get back and get your stuff. The problem is that all those spiders will still be here on the platform when you get back, and that's what we're going to talk about today. That's what we're going to solve. So first let's emulate that. All right, so we're going to put these guys. We're going to pretend that we ran up here with these spiders chasing us. They chased us up here. Or maybe I'm a griefer and I drag them up here intentionally to kill the next player that comes up here. Okay, so we got a bunch of spiders now up here. So it's going to be very bad for the poor player that teleports into this location. And let's demonstrate that. So if I was able to get out, all right, and I run out and get resurrected, I come back, I've got like 5 hit points, I want to go get my corpse, or maybe I just want to continue farming, whatever it is. I come up and they're all still here, and this is bad news if you don't have a bunch of friends with you, or you're not full hit points, because like I was saying, these cordyceps spiders will be flame striking you, and you're likely, and there's one right on top of the teleporter, so you're going to be in a pretty bad way. So why does this happen? Well, it turns out that all games, not just Ultima Online or RunUO or ServeUO or all Sphere servers, probably all games, in order to conserve on CPU, the mobiles are turned off when you leave a sector, leave an area. We call them sectors, 16 by 16 tile chunk of the map here. So they're walking around now doing their thing, but when I go up here, they're all frozen now. They've stopped getting timer ticks, they've stopped thinking, they've stopped walking, they've stopped moving, and they will stay in that location forever. They never wake up and go anywhere and do anything. Okay, so that's the problem we're going to solve. So let me turn on hidden objects here so we can see what it is that is going to help us. Got a little command here that allows me to turn off. So you can see our teleporter now and these controllers. The controller that we're going to talk about today is this guy. It's an activation controller. And you're probably getting an idea what that means. Okay, it's currently not running. And so we just saw what happened. All of these guys stayed up here on the platform when I left because they were deactivated. It's called Sector Deactivation. Players just recognize it as, you know, the way that creatures act in, you know, Ultima Online, but administrators know that the mechanics behind it are because the sector deactivated because the last player mobile left the area. Okay, so I promise to get quickly to the solution here. You'll want to drop one of these activation controllers, and you can link up to 6 spawners. So I've linked these spawners, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's one back here, 6. I've linked up all these spawners to the activation controller. And what it's going to do is when I leave this area, the activation controller itself will get a notification from the sector deactivate. Well, items don't really care about activation, deactivation, unless they're, you know, special. But this guy, what he'll do in that case then is enumerate the spawners that are listed here, and then enumerate the mobiles that are on those spawners, and then kickstart their AI, right? Restart their AI, and not only that, tell them to hightail it back to their spawner. Okay, so a couple things on that. First of all, we could, at that point, just jerk the creature back to its spawner. Just one, you know, move, and then they're back at their spawner. That's really ugly. We don't want to do that, because if somebody was to exit this area and then come back, and now all the mobiles are like, you know, 5-10 tiles away at their spawner, it's a little unnatural. It doesn't feel right. You would know that somebody took a shortcut, somebody, you know, hacked it. So we don't want to do that. We want them to naturally get back to their spawner. However, if you look at them right now, they're actually in wandering mode. Let's see that. I'm going to turn on debugging for AI for just this guy. So he's telling you now he's wandering, he's blocked, he's wandering, he's blocked. This is because he's trying to wander back to his home. So this is what creatures do. They wander if they're not attacking somebody, they're wandering, and this is that natural just walking around behavior. However, they also have something known as a home. It's usually near the spawner, within, you know, it's any tile within, like, maybe perhaps 4 tiles of their spawner. So the wandering AI is not super smart. It is not super intelligent. It doesn't use any really sophisticated algorithms for getting back to that home. They just sort of bumble along in the direction that they want to travel, and then if they bump into something like he's doing now, he'll make a random direction change and try to get back on course. And so it's really inefficient. But it works well for wandering because it gives a really natural feel. If you see these guys out in the forest and not trapped on this little mound here, they look good. They wander around. They're kind of aimless, and it's good AI. But it's bad in a situation like this where you would just kind of like them to leave this area. Like these guys over here, they all just want to go to these spawners, but the AI is such that it's saying, you know, head that direction, and there's no way down to those spawners from up here. They have to go backwards this way, and that's requiring a whole new type of AI. And that's in fact the kind of AI we are going to use, is what our activation controller does. The activation controller says, look, I'm not only going to activate you, but I'm going to give you a path. Okay, so we're going to invoke some sophisticated movement algorithms called pathing. We're going to calculate a path for you to follow to get back to your spawner. All right, and briefly, we don't, in game design, we don't want to use that too often because it's, like I said, it's much more expensive. So if you were pathing, if we had 17,000 mobiles, and let's say a lot of them were activated because we have 300 players in the game and they've got all these mobiles activated, we wouldn't want all of them pathing at the same time because that would be too expensive. We don't want to spend our CPU cycles in that way. So we want to keep it for only when it's necessary. So that was really the design choice behind making an activation controller. I'm forcing a game master here, or an administrator, to selectively put one of these things in a particular place to fit a particular need, right? Because this type of clumping happens everywhere in UO and players expect it. If you're in Destard, you can certainly grab all of the dragons and drakes and drag them to the entrance and then go out of the entrance and wait for the next poor unsuspecting player to walk in there and get overwhelmed with 3 dragons and 2 drakes. That's UO. I mean, somebody may choose to change that behavior, but I don't want to. I want to keep the look and feel, the AI behaviors of UO as close as possible. This here is a little bit of a special situation. It's an area of our own creation. And unlike a cave, they can't just walk back out of the cave again. They have to get back up these stairs to get out, and it's not the chances of that are pretty slim. Okay, so that's a lot of words. Let's turn on our activation controller. Okay, so now what's going to happen? I'm going to leave this area. The sector is going to deactivate. The deactivation controller is going to then activate all of these creatures and give them a path back to their spawners. And let's take a look at it. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to leave now. Okay. My system is backing up at the moment. That's why it's a little bit laggy. This is on my local server. Okay, so I've left. Now, if everything is working as it's supposed to be, those spiders are hightailing it off of that plateau back to their spawners. Okay, so here I am again. I've been killed. I run out to go get a resurrection. I come back with 5 hit points, and now I want to get back to my corpse so I can get my loot, my gear, everything. Okay, so let's see what happened. Oh, look. All the spiders have left the plateau. So again, that was because the activation controller enumerated the spawners, enumerated the mobiles on the spawners, gave them a path back to their respective spawners, and told them to get going. And they were able to get off this platform efficiently and quickly and make it possible for players to get up here. Okay, so that wasn't as short as I had wanted it to do, but it's a little bit of a complex issue. But I think that's enough for game masters and seers to drop one of these. Now I'd like to talk a little bit more about, when and where you would use these, and again, why. dungeons and things like that where you can run in and run out again, I wouldn't mess with those. Those are really standard UO, and players expect them to work like that. And players get upset when you change the way that mobiles behave. So it would be discouraging to somebody to, griefers are players too, right? They want to drag all the dragons to the entrance. And as soon as they run out of the entrance, the dragons, stay awake and then go back to their spawners. I don't want that here. I mean, somebody might choose to do that, but this particular application is important to have this because players can easily get, trapped here or lured here, and it would be a death trap if there wasn't the activation controller. Okay, so why do mobiles deactivate when you leave the area? It's to save CPU power. I touched on it earlier. We have 17,000 mobiles on this shard, and if they're all awake and thinking, that's 17,000 timers, and there's many calculations to just even have them do this simple walking, let alone any sort of pathing. You had 17,000 mobiles pathing, you'd probably feel it in game laggy because it's just a whole lot of servicing that the CPU has to do. Okay, so that's really it. So we declump mobiles in a sector deactivate scenario. And it's worth noting that this is a momentary switch. And by that I mean a flag is just set on the mobile that says, I need to get home. And the pathing algorithm is turned on for that mode. But as soon as they get home, that flag is turned off and they exit this pathing mode and they go back to wandering. Okay, so it's just till you get home, they're pathing, and then after that they return to normal behavior. So now they're just they're acting normally, and they're not requiring any extra CPU or processing. So it's a momentary, an ephemeral mode that they enter only to get back to their home, and then they're done. On a side note, if you watched my previous video on invasion spawners, where you set up spawners to invade a town, I didn't talk about it there, but those two also ignore sector deactivation, but they do it controlled like this. When they have a navigation destination, they can proactively ignore deactivation because they need to be able to travel long distances whether or not there are players around to appreciate the movement, because they got a destination where there likely will be players. Okay, so there are certain scenarios where overriding sector deactivation is necessary. For an invasion is for believability. You want to believe that the orcs can move from the orc fort all the way to the town of Cove, without player, being there to do that. And then here, it's more of a necessity for playability. You don't want this death trap here on top of this hill to keep decimating players every time they come in here. Okay. That's it. So it's the activation controller. Super simple to use. You drop one down at that place where you are having a problem. You link up the spawners in question. If you need another activation controller, add it. They work together, and then turn it on, and you're good. And it knows where the spawners for the creatures on here are, and it constructs the path, and it does all that stuff for you. So you just link it and go. All right, bye.